Everybody, good morning. When I didn't think that it could get any worse, um, asTech has far exceeded any expectations for that. I guess I don't know if someone thinks they're a if there's a PR company or somebody involved, but whoever it is or whoever they think is involved, they should probably just give it up. So we're gonna start with that this morning, and you know what? I've had a long career, and most of my, I guess what you consider my formal educational training is actually in public relations, crisis communications, even. And so if in school when you're studying public relations, you have case studies of companies that did it horribly wrong, and they're usually Exxon and Enron and some of those names. We're going to add asTech probably to like the next time I have to speak at some sort of event of what not to do. So let's just get into it. All right. We know that they did this really stupid thing with GEICO. And we've said over and over that the best thing for them to do would be just to apologize. But unfortunately, they just keep doubling down and making it worse than what it could possibly be. And quite frankly, it's we call this I guess kind of what we call white knuckle public relations. And what white knuckle public relations is when you basically are going to cling to something as long as it rides off the cliff, catches on fire, falls down the bottom of the cliff, and keeps on going. It's typically when there's a corporation or a person or an entity that wishes to control something else, whether that's a populist public thought, opinion, or actually a market for profit slash power, right? It's when the message makes no complete sense whatsoever, but you just keep clinging to it. And in corporations, when this comes up, what it is basically we're just going to keep talking until the storm weathers itself and it's over and we get our way. In short, when it's over, it's going to be very, very good for us. We're going to make lots of money and we're going to grow our business. Not going to be that great for you, but we just need you to give in and just kind of let it happen. The message, there was this podcast, and there's the guy that went on the podcast, and then there's this corporate official message that is the most scripted, like the script, like the videos, like a minute long, and then there's like, go read the interview, with these scripted answers. In short, let me just sum it up for you. You body shop people, you're not educated enough to know that this is really a good thing and that we're doing good things for you and that we're here to help you and that we're gonna try to save you from yourself. So what we're gonna do to just get this to make it happen is we're going to buy media placement. We're going to send out some videos and corporate messaging and kind of all that good stuff. We're going to encourage associations and trade press and organizations and MSOs and all those people to meet quietly with us behind the scenes so that we can work together and we can understand your issues with what we've got and we can help collaborate with the industry. All right, let me just tell you what that really means. In the PR world, that's called buying time and buying silence. It's kind of like these two different things that you do, really. While all these associations are telling you, no, you guys just got to calm down, or you have a trade press or someone, an association or whatever, telling you guys just got to calm down, and we're meeting behind the scenes, and we're having lots of positive meetings, and quietly we're going to their headquarters, or they're coming to us, or whatever. That's a game. Right. While y'all are quietly meeting and there hasn't been much of a public like media ruckus since the CIC thing in April, while that's happening, then they're buying media space and continuing on that journey. And then the quiet message to the insurers is that, no, everybody's really about this. We might have just not communicated it appropriately, but the industry's really behind it. And we're confident that we're going to be able to let them understand what our position is and how this works. We just need you guys to stay calm. This is really going to be a good thing. And then eventually as the shops aren't seeing this uproar or ruckus coming from what should be industry leadership or press or whatever, this thing just kind of quietly starts to ratchet up and take control, right? You see more and more insurers starting to adopt these pricing model that even they didn't agree with. So we talked about that last time, how USAA has estimates out there where they're citing and quoting asTech pricing, and they're not even part of this GEICO agreement. So as that just keeps ratcheting up and getting more of a market foothold, because there's not this kerfuffle out there, other than I've seen like a lot of ADAS guys that have independent mobile, ADAS businesses, they're kind of online complaining. And I've seen individual shops go online and kind of complain, but there's not been since CIC this whole like industry uproar, and that's planned public relations. The last time you guys saw this was a little thing called Perks Trader, right? If you remember that, there was like there'd be these big uproars at these big meetings like CIC. You'd have like a quarter of nothing and then a little, here and there. And as that was happening, well, the farm was out working regions and doing face-to-faces and doing kind of like this little slow-handed PR thing. So let's just kind of go over what came out of the podcast and these couple of videos. First, I cannot believe that anyone, a CEO, would kind of have the nerve to say that shops are now more profitable because of what we did. And then, well, some shops are more profitable because of what they did. Some shops get more profitable when they actually start using an estimating system. Some shops get more profitable when they actually start writing estimates and stop working up. There's a lot of things that shops somehow just miraculously get more profitable on. Your program is not one of the things that's made shops more profitable. More and more shops are quoting that they're citing and going online, they're having problems getting paid, they're getting denied for more things than they ever have before, they're being hit with these unreasonable limits, emails coming back, we can only pay this because the GEICO asTech agreement. So I'm not sure if there's anybody out there that's more profitable. I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are less profitable and struggling from it, and so to kind of have the nerve to go online and say that is a little insulting, and I would hope that the industry is a little bit more angry about that. The next thing that I thought was really funny is on our podcast, we kept saying over and over, well, let's leave the pricing out. That has to be the most idiotic statement I've ever heard. That's the one thing we're talking about. In case you didn't know it, we're well aware of your products. We're well aware of what ADAS Think does. You might want to go back and remember who the first person and people were to kind of like introduce the industry to asTech Think. We're really aware of what it does. We're really aware of it as a rules engine. No one cares about your products. Right? What they care about is this pricing that you've entered into. Now, I know that we like to kind of like gloss over, well, we have this rules engine and this ADAS Think thing that's going to tell you what the car needs, and it's based on, principles or what the vehicle or how it's equipped and what the estimate has on it, what the OE says. But then we also have this proprietary thing over here that we're not really talking about too much, and it's telling an insurance company when an OE scan tool isn't required or it doesn't need to be done to get it done. That's what we're worried about. We're worried about this thing that nobody gets to see because you're saying it's proprietary based on your thousands of scans and experience that's making decisions about what is or isn't going to get done to a car. And that's being given to an insurer whose claim force isn't trained. So it's not like I get to have a discussion with another person on the other side of that phone that knows how to negotiate, how to talk through a problem, how to work through those things, right? So that's the pricing is the problem. That's it. If we don't care about your services, we don't care about your company, we care that you overstepped what even was remotely your business and entered into a pricing agreement with an insurance company that isn't even realistic. It doesn't even take into account all of the different things that have to be encountered out in the industry after a vehicle's been wrecked and repaired and needs scans and calibrations and in-process scanning and all the different things that go on. So to make the statement of we're just going to leave pricing out of this discussion was like, well, then why the hell are you even on here, right? What are we even talking about? Move on, because we really, I don't have anything else to discuss until you're ready to kind of say you're sorry about it. The other thing that kind of cracked me up was the statement of, well, this pricing really doesn't cover that outline vehicle. And then I guess in an homage to Larry, it was, those Europeans, those European cars or whatever. In case you didn't notice, or in case you didn't know, like I get it that there's a lot of people over there that have never been in the collision industry, have never worked on cars, can't turn a wrench, can't change a flat tire, can't do any of those things. Got it. Totally understand it. Coming from the insurance world, that was the basis of my adjusters. But everything we do in the collision repair industry is an outline vehicle. It is a vehicle, even our estimating system says, right? Hey, we're not made for collision damaged vehicles. We're new and undamaged vehicles with new and undamaged parts. We're working on collision damaged cars. We're trying to put them back together. And then we have to try to make sure all of these systems and sensors work. Nothing's an everyday, ordinary experience in the collision repair world. And so to come up with pricing for that out of ordinary experience makes it even crazier. I am interested though in what you're going to do at SEMA when you say you're going to release your mechanical version of this. Do your mechanics have the same pricing schedule that our body shops are? So in other words, can consumers, since you said in your podcast that you believe the customer is the consumer, I don't know. I don't have any consumers that are paying your bill, right? Like we all get that. Ultimately, we all have the same customer, the consumer. No, consumers don't pay your bill. The shops that chose to use your product paid your bill. Your customer was body shops, not consumers. I know that the insurers like to try to muddy that water and make it, we're all working for the common good of the consumer. But your first priority was to ensure the profitability of the people that were paying your salary. But since you're talking about consumers and you feel like this is a consumer-led thing, then I would hope that somewhere in SEMA you have some big billboards right in the middle of, or posters in the middle of wherever you're going to enroll your mechanical database that says you believe mechanics across the United States of America should only be charging these same fees that you agreed to with GEICO. And if that's not the case, if you don't have that same fee schedule set up for your mechanics as well, if you're not educating consumers that if they go and seek mechanical services, that this is all they should pay because it's the same thing that GEICO's paying. If I would see that, well, then there's no integrity. You didn't really believe in that pricing after all. So I am going to have some people looking for that. Now, hopefully all of you that are going to be going to SEMA, drop by that asTech booth and you ask them the same questions, and be sure to go find where they're doing the mechanical version as well, so that you could ask those questions over there. Are all the people coming to the mechanical version being told that consumers are going to be given a price list, that these are the prices that they should expect to encounter for this service when you're going in to get your oil changed or any of those other things? And then I really, if I was a shop, I find it insulting to think that you're not even considered the consumer, right? Like they went on a podcast and basically said that you weren't the customer, that they entered into this agreement, that they did all of this with GEICO because they thought that their job was to take care of consumers, when they didn't even take care of ensuring that your business stays profitable, your cost of labor, your acquisitions, your equipment, your fees, your building, your rent, your water, all the things that you have to pay. When they decided to set what they considered standardized pricing was. I felt that was very interesting. The other thing I thought was really interesting was that of all of the things that have happened, the only thing that they felt that they should say they're sorry for was that we did a poor job of communicating this program. No. There was no way to have been a good way to communicate this. It was none of asTech's business, the pricing, what a shop charges, what the labor rates are, what the scanning fees are. No, that was none of your business. You provide a service to an end user, which is a shop and a technician in a shop using a service, right? It wasn't your job. You overstepped, right? It's like me going to the hospital and sitting down and going, hey, I want to set some pricing for heart surgery. I got a heart, right? So I should be able to set the pricing for that. You never should have been in that. You never should have entertained that. You never should have been in conversation with insurers. I get that insurers were coming to you and asking for it. I get that we have problems. We have lots of problems in the industry with lots of things on pricing and labors and times. It wasn't your job to sort that out. It was the insurer's job to have a trained and quality claims force that could have those discussions directly with shops and third parties that were doing the calibrations. We don't just get to set rules when things get hard, but you overstepped and you were tone deaf. And these last videos just show like a pure ego-driven part of just everything. So let's talk about what that needs to look like, right? So like if you want to get in our business and tell us what to do, then I will gladly kind of reaffirm that for you. Number one, if you didn't know it, you're in crisis, right? You're in crisis and denial. We know your products. We all get it. You don't need to explain your products and services and whatever. We just don't care, right? I think that's what you're missing. We don't care. You cross the line. I would highly sidebar recommend that you get a real PR firm if you think you just need to get a real PR firm that understands this industry. There's Simpson Communications, Kristen Simpson. You probably ought to call her and then just do whatever she tells you to do, right? But you've got some damage control to be done. Number two, what should you do? I think you should immediately apologize to the industry. Not apologize that we didn't communicate it correctly. Not, hey, I'm not going to talk about the pricing. You made a mistake. If anyone told you that this was going to be, I'm sure GEICO told you it was going to be a great idea. I mean, they love it, right? But it made a mistake. And you're sorry. You need to notify GEICO in writing that the pricing deal is no longer valid. Hey, we messed up. We can't do this. Now that we think about it, it was a poor idea. You need to send that to them in writing. And then as a courtesy, for integrity purposes, you probably just want to copy the industry on that as a public statement, just so that everybody knows. Whoopsie, we're done. I did notice in the podcast that was mentioned from one of the people. Hey, you guys thought about stopping this, right? You messed up. You got a little too far. It's out of control. End it. Their response was sort of to dodge that, but it was definitely a no. So, I mean, that's really what you got to do. Okay, then the last thing. Besides the fact that I'm really curious if you're gonna, actually do this with your mechanical shops and you're gonna tell mechanics in the country that they can only charge $45 for something, that would be really interesting to me. But if you're gonna do this and you're gonna continue with this proprietary database that says when an aftermarket tool can be done versus an OE tool, and you believe that you know better, right? That you've tested it and you know better. Then I'd like to see you come up with some sort of liability statement, some liability promise that you give. Sidebar Air Pro, this one's also probably going to apply to you with becoming aware of your recent changes now around OE scanning. If you think you know better, if you think that you've tested it and that the aftermarket tool is as good or better than the OE tool, then I think you should do something very similar to what LKQ did. So insurers, I hope you're also paying attention to this. As insurance companies, we worried about the perception of liability around aftermarket parts. And so before we all kind of went a little further down that trail, kind of as the Avery versus State Farm case kind of pawned off and you saw insurers just kind of mass do those, we went and kind of thought, well, what's the liability of this? And LKQ stepped up, and you can find it on their website where they made this liability promise. If our part is deemed to be the reason an injury or an accident takes place, we'll provide, and I probably should have looked at it definitely again, but it was something like $5 million in coverage, right? And it had some very limiting terms. If you think your database is so good, then you should probably put your money where your mouth is, and you should offer customers that are going to use you mechanical and collision repair a promise similar to what LKQ did, because right now what you offer is really weak. So if you go to the asTech website and you look at their warranty, take a load off your shoulders. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I probably should have done the PG version of this for whatever. But you can rest easy because scanning calibration is backed by a warranty. Well, what is that warranty? It's kind of freaking worthless. We provided you the following service and repair recommendations provided on our pre-scan and post-scan reports that the vehicle will be free of DTC codes. So it's basically, we're just going to clear the codes and that's what we're promising you, and not that it actually works or that someone's going to live or whatever. But hey, we promise you this car is going to be free of DTC codes. That's it. That's the promise on the website. So if you were using this service, and then it says, but if you're still having trouble, we're going to rescan the vehicle at no charge, and we're going to provide a rental vehicle during that. But if you read the details, this is how tone deaf this entire company is, specifically to the collision repair industry. We're going to give you $25 a day for a maximum of 3 days towards the rental. Who can get a rental? I have a really good deal. I have a great rate. I probably have this rate that's been grandfathered over the last 15, 20 years. That's about half of what my rate is for a rental car. But they're gonna help you $25 a day max for a maximum of 3 days. Oh, and if the vehicle breaks down, and it's more than 200 miles or something, they're going to help you with towing, but that's also a maximum of $50. I can't tow a car for a block for $50, but you get a maximum of $50. And that is for 250 more miles on the odometer since the last time it was scanned, or 3 business days. Well, if we think about some things that are key cycles and some other things, it's going to be more than 3 business days before I probably get X number of miles, or go through X number of key cycles on a car or whatever. So this is kind of weak. So I mean, if you want the industry to feel comfortable, if you want the industry to believe that shops are there for you, then I think you're going to have to step up with a little bit more, considering you're going to advise insurers when you don't think OE tools need to be used. So that's definitely just some things, I mean, if we're going to get in each other's business and make decisions and talk about that, well, those are my freebies for you, right? Y'all didn't even have to give any money to talk about what you should be doing. So don't say I never did anything for you. All right, let's move on to the other things that are on the list, right? We're going to talk a little bit about RTAs now. There is a class on the website. It is 4 hours long. It is a 4-hour lecture by Larry Montanez on right to appraisals. This is Travelers part policy. So just so you know, I get a lot of questions on RTAs. I'm getting lots of questions now as negotiation with insurers becomes a little bit more contentious. So number one, RTAs only apply to first party coverages. They are not for third parties. Third parties, you're still looking at an avenue of small claims court. We use these when the policyholder and the insurer cannot agree on the loss. It is presumably supposed to be a faster and a cheaper form of dispute resolution than a contract civil case, right? Going to court and arguing over contract benefits and breach of contract and all those things. Now, one of the things that's really key that we want to circle back to, because SIU for multiple insurers around the country is picking up around RTAs. When I was in claims, I might have got 1 or 2 of these a year. So when the insurer started removing these from the policy, it wasn't an intent of like, we want to get this out of here, we don't want to pay. It started dropping from policies because really, honestly, nobody was using it. And now there's been so much, I don't want to say publicity, or there's been news coverage and online and people talking about successes and what's happening with RTAs, that more people are doing them. And so just a little bit more attention to them. The customer has to hire the representative. Body shop, you cannot, one, you can't be the representative in the case. And then number 2, you can't hire, you can't hire this for them. That means you can help them. I always say we've got a letters package where we help people kind of go, hey, here are 2 or 3 people that do this. Mr. and Miss Smith, you're welcome to choose whoever you want. Here are their phone numbers, go for it. The customer needs to have a conversation with the representative that they hire, and they need to fully understand what this whole process is going to be. I know that you guys want to make it seamless for them. You're scared. You don't want them to think that they're going to have any out-of-pocket expenses. So I know a lot of shops have been trying to do this for them. That can get you in a lot of trouble. So make sure the customer is choosing it. If we read the policy language on this particular policy from Travelers, it basically says if we can't agree on the amount, either of us may demand an appraisal of the loss. Each party will select a competent and impartial appraiser. So they don't have to be licensed necessarily, even if the state has a public adjuster or a licensing law, just says they have to be competent, but it must say that they must be impartial, and that rules out the shop, right? So if you were the shop that wrote the estimate, you're not going to be impartial. So we need to find an impartial third party. They need to do the same. So the way the Travelers policy reads is it could not be another adjuster. There are some insurance companies that just says it must be a competent appraiser. And so you'll have them assign the file to another adjuster in the office. And while that doesn't seem fair, that does meet the definition. Mark Olson runs into this all the time. So he's always got some great posts to share on that. What's different about the Travelers is that as soon as each independent appraiser is selected, those 2 people have to get together and choose an umpire. It doesn't mean it's going to umpire. It just means they want to pre-select the umpire. And then after that, the 2 parties will try to reach an agreement. But if they can't, then the umpire is already selected. It says that both parties need to state the actual cash value, which is going to be the total ACV of the vehicle plus then the amount of the loss. So if you're working on a Travelers vehicle, understand that ACV is an issue. So if you're writing an estimate on repairable, and don't be surprised if somebody doesn't come back and go, well, now the vehicle's a total loss. Because the thing to keep in mind is that original offers are off the table. So I get this all the time. An insurer will call me and go, Kristen, what the independent that the insured hired submitted to us is twice the amount of what the shop wanted. And I go, yeah, sounds about right. And they're like, well, that doesn't even seem fair. It's like, well, you rejected the shop's estimate. You said you didn't want to pay the shop's estimate. You didn't think it was fair. The shop rejected your appraisal and said it wasn't fair either. And so the two new appraisers start over and reappraise the loss. The customer is owed the total value of the loss, not necessarily what the shop wanted to charge. And I get a lot of IAs that get hung up on this, right? Well, the shop only wanted 15. It's cute. And that shop sucks, right? They didn't know how to appraise the loss. But the customer is entitled to the full amount of the loss. And so that's getting caught up. There's some confusion. I take it back to there's just no claims training. There's no claims school anymore. Claims school and policy school used to be like 2 and 3 weeks long, and that just doesn't happen anymore. So a lot of times it's kind of all fresh and new to some people on the other side. But just keep that in mind. Again, there is a 4-hour class online. If you think that you want to learn more about this, absolutely, just jump in there and take it. All right, and because of that, because of RTAs, I just wanted to bring to your attention that in Texas has a bill that is going up in this next coming session, I believe, and they started a GoFundMe, and I'm going to put the link to that GoFundMe in the description of the video. It'll be on the YouTube video, also be in the comments on the other social media channels. Texas has done. I'm not a fan of associations, and I've never made that a secret, right? But Texas has done a really good job, and what they've got going on here, and you got Robert McDormand, longtime claims person in the state of Texas, kind of taking the center of this. This bill going in front of the legislator in Texas would make right to appraisal available to every customer in the state of Texas, even if it's not specifically in the policy. So why should that matter if you're not in Texas? Well, every state, when they start to look at bills, writing any of that, they like to look and see, well, has any other state out there done anything similar? I was having some conversation recently with some people in Utah that are trying to write some legislation, and they were looking for, hey, can you send us copies of any other states that have bills that have covered these things? So to get a good, strong bill passed in one state starts that process for the other 49 states. So even if you're not in Texas, getting this bill done and having a good, strong foundation, a good sample bill that could be taken around the country and shown, being able to have that success, being able to have customer testimonials, being able to show the benefit of that is really huge. So if you're not in the state of Texas, it still would behoove you as a body shop to donate to this GoFundMe for Texas and to help them get that bill across the finish line. Somebody somewhere has to win so that it makes it okay for other people in other states to win. So be sure to do that. Next thing I wanted to talk about was this Jeep. So we posted this RTA, I'm sorry, not RTA, we posted this PRI on a Jeep that was done. This was repaired at a BMW certified dealership in Ohio. It is a mess. You can look at the other pictures. You can go to I got it posted on LinkedIn. We've got it posted on YouTube and Facebook, and it's on Twitter. I think it's everywhere, whatever. You can go and read everything that was wrong with this. But what's interesting is this picture alone was really all we need, right? The first thing that the shop sends, I didn't need to see the rest of this Jeep to know what we were going to find, and the shop didn't either. If you knew the impact forces, the forces that were applied to the car in the accident, when you see these misalignments, these telltale signs, it was evident that there was still significant structural damage to the vehicle. What I found interesting, and it happens every time we post pictures like this, and it happens every time we teach an inspection class. So intro to estimating, we inspect a car, and there's a BMW here that was a post-repair inspection that ended up costing one shop a little over $300,000 for an old 2016 BMW. And the signs on the BMW are the same, just very evident of what's going on with the car. But it never ceases to amaze me that someone will always go in the comments and section and go, well, that sort of misalignment is common for Jeeps, or Fords don't have, the doors don't fit, or hoods never align on GM products. And the moral of the story is that there is a lot of things in this industry that we let go because we think we have some preconceived notion of a particular manufacturer or the way their cars are, even when the collision forces are telling us a story. Don't take anything for granted. If you hear yourself saying, or you hear a coworker or a technician, an estimator saying, the doors on Fords never fit right, or those panels never line up on a Nissan, or whatever that is, stop and tell yourself, okay, no, I'm going to go re-inspect the vehicle and make sure it's right. So this shop, this technician, one, he knew damn well what was wrong with this car. You can't miss it. It's not an accident. This was intentional to try to keep this thing from totaling and delivering it to the customer. But at least when this thing drove around before it was delivered, someone in the estimating, whoever was in charge of the final walk around, should have looked at this and went, we got a problem, right? So there's these preconceived, there are these beliefs that we have, for most of us that have been doing this for a long time, things we think we know. And none of those hold true. So this was another great example of just a reminder of why vehicle inspection still matters, applied forces matter, and then when panels don't fit and it matches the applied forces, you definitely want to dig a little deeper. But how do you do that, right? Like it's hard it's easy. We preach to people that you should pre-measure every vehicle. Right? It doesn't matter. Key scratch, we want you to pre-measure it. And that sounds great, right? And we do it. Larry does it. We encourage the C20 shops to do it. But you got, probably for a lot of shops, if you do have a measuring system, it's over in what you would call your structural section. And so taking a vehicle over to that, benching it, setting it up, measuring it, all of that is a significant time investment. For most places, there's not a lot of people that are trained on that system or how to use it. I go into shops and there's usually one guy, and he knows how to use it, and he's the guy that measures every car, or he's the only guy that measures cars because the other people don't know how to do it, so they just don't. And those cars never get measured. Or I got a guy out there with a tape measure going, I think it's good, or whatever. So I'm really excited, and since we already talked about SEMA, Cellett's going to show what they're calling AI web tools. It's not really artificial intelligence in a way, but it's just really super cool. And if you're at SEMA, please go by and let them demonstrate this for you. But basically, you can get Cellet data. So Cellet data is CAD data. So it's from the CAD drawings of the vehicle. It's not, a lot of measuring systems are, you go and you pull a car off the lot that's been delivered to a dealership, and you take it, you measure it. Well, you have all of these tolerances, right, that can happen in build. So let's say, I'm -3. Okay, it meets the tolerance, it delivers, but then that's the vehicle that gets measured, that becomes the data. But Cellet data is on zeros, which is nice. Sure, they do some measurements of vehicles, but I love that CAD data is there. And now you have access to that. So no matter what measuring system you use, you can buy a subscription. It's less than $100 a month. And you can have access to all of Cellet's data, which comes in handy if you happen to have a system that's missing a couple cars. We all know Carolina struggled with a lot of Dodge products for a long time, so you could go and get those measurements. But what's really cool about it is that you can get and use tram gauges. So I grew up, just 80s, I'm going to age myself, and we did everything by trams. When the first reference 1, reference 2 days of body shop, you had to, tram gauges was one of the things to go from a reference 2 to a reference 1 shop, if you're old enough to remember what that was. And so I grew up working on tram gauges, and they are an effective tool. And I am the first to say that a technician that understands frame with a good set of tram gauges can do a whole lot more than a technician that really doesn't understand it with the most expensive measuring systems. But just a quick little demo. You're going to hear James in the background here talking.
This Tesla Model 3 does. Then you can go from the upper hinge on the B pillar to
I want to make sure you're seeing what's happening. So these are verified points. This is just a Tesla, for example. Like specifically, if you're going to be putting on, mean, you're using like the gantry, the side gantry systems or whatever, but these are the points out of the CAD data. But now, as you touch these points, one, you get to see pictures of them. And then two, if you look down there at the bottom, it'll tell you even what length of attachment. So I need 211 millimeters on the left end of my tram gauge and 150 millimeters on the other end. So I know what the differences should be. I can change that if I don't want to do that. So I don't want to do a level measurement. If I want to do the tilt one, I can just change that and it'll figure that out. But I pick my holes, and you have a digital tram gauge, then you take that and you enter it in there where it said measurement there at the bottom. You'd enter your number there. So one, anybody kind of an estimator can do quick checks and really get an idea if a vehicle is good, has a problem, maybe needs to go have a more detailed measurement done. And then what's also great about this is that it'll print your report. So sometimes the hardest thing about tram gauges or X measurements or whatever we used to do was, how do I prove that, right? How do I hand that back to an insurer and say, hey, here's I can show you that this vehicle has problems and it now needs to go and have a more detailed setup measure. I may have to, drop exhaust. I may have to change, suspension, wheels and tires. Those kind of things come off so that we can do the measurement, and that can get expensive. But now it's a great system. So you can drop by the Select booth at SEMA and have them. They'll show it to you. You can also you can take a car liner bench and turn it into a Select bench. Now there's adapter systems for how you don't have to go buy a whole full new, you've been a car liner shop, you got this and you want to do it. You can do it now. It's just an amazing system. But I love that in blueprinting now for just the cost of some digital tram gauges, and I know DentFix has some great ones. I'm hoping to see some relationships there very soon. But just the cost of a digital tram gauge and something that's really easy to train somebody on, and this software would be a great blueprinting tool specifically for shops that maybe are running a lot of estimates and you're like, I can't put a computerized three-dimensional measuring system in my blueprinting bay, right? I'm going to buy one of those because they're expensive and it's going to be over there. So it is a great new tool. I love this artificial intelligence camera. It's kind of cool. All right, well, that's all I've got for this morning's coffee talk, and it was a lot. I told you guys, make sure you got a full cup before you called or before you clicked play on this one. If you are at SEMA, please go by the asTech booth. Don't get yourself thrown out. Don't pull a Larry, right? But do let it be known how you think, how you feel. For those out there that are in positions in association or whatever, now's not the time for the quiet behind the door meetings. Your shops need to hear from you, right? They need to know that things are happening, right? Like this doesn't just get kind of rolled under the rug and then one day we all wake up, we turn around and you have a vendor and an insurer that have worked so tightly behind the scenes to really undercut what a shop really needs to be competitive or an independent. We need those mobile guys, right? Like I get on them too, and I get mad at them for a lot of things, but we need them, and they need to be profitable, and they need to not have their handcuffs because some company that's not out there in Kansas running around fixing cars or out running around here in Arkansas fixing cars is trying to tell us what we can or can't charge. So have a fantastic week. I will not be at SEMA, so for everybody that's panicking, I'm not going to be there. But the team is there, Jason's there, Melanie's there, everybody's there running around. I get to finally stay home for a week and not have to go to Vegas. It's kind of like back at COVID. I'm very, very excited. So if you see something from SEMA, I guess say something, right? Let us know if you see something cool. Jason and Melanie are going to be doing the same thing all out the week on the channel. You'll be able to see what they run into or if any new products drop. So have a great day and have a great week. Bye, everybody.